Hey, what's up guys? It's Mike with Rugged Adventures. Got a little bit of a repair video today, so it won't be like our normal stuff. I have my 2012 RZR 4 here, and I have a torn CV boot. This is my second one on this side, actually. The first one up here we did, and I was able to do this last time without taking the joint apart. So I'm going to see if we can do that the same on the outside as I did on the inside, and I'll kind of show you guys how to do that, because I don't think I've ever seen it done that way on YouTube, and we'll try to get it done right after this. Okay, now I'm going to try to take you guys through it step by step, because it really drives me nuts when people just kind of skip to the, this is how you do it. So I'll do it as best I can. So we'll take the wheel off, and I'm just using an impact wrench because it's quicker. There's not really much on here that needs this much torque, but 17 millimeter for your lug nuts, and just pop those off real quick. And then set your tire and your lug nuts to the side. Make sure you don't lose them. All right, next we're gonna have to take this cotter pin off here, and then take the axle nut off. Let me go grab a pair of pliers, and I'll be right back. So we'll take this cotter pin out. And it's probably best to get a new one when you're done, but in case you don't have that size or whatever, just hang on to this. I put this with my lug nuts, and then we'll need to find the right socket for that. I'll be right back. Okay, so for your axle nut for the front, 27 millimeter. And again, I just use the impact. Pop that off, and then you're able to, should be able to get these washers out of here. And we'll need to take off the, again, I put all my parts in the wheel hub with the, or the hub cap with the lug nuts. So let's see, we'll need to take the brake caliper off in order to be able to pull the whole disc and all that off. And that's going to be a 15 millimeter. Put those in a safe spot. Pull your caliper off. Stick it somewhere where it's not going to fall. If you want, you can zip tie it up there, and then you should be able to take your caliper off. Keep these washers, they have a bevel to them. They go concave in. So just keep those together and facing the right way. Okay, so we're going to take off the brake rotor, just like that. Set it aside, try not to get any dirt or dust in there, and then we're going to need to pop our ball joints loose from the hub here. Those are a 13 millimeter socket, and I would tell you to pre-treat these with WD-40. A couple days beforehand. I've already had this thing apart, I don't know, a couple months ago. This thing seems to eat up CV boots, but oh, I didn't see the nut on the other side. Let me go grab a wrench and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Got the wrench. It's a 13 millimeter on the back side, 13 millimeter on the front. Don't let it get away from you. And see, it just fell right out of there because, like I said, I've had these apart relatively recently. I can just put this back in here so I don't lose it, or else I will lose it. And then the same on the bottom, I would assume, but yep, 13 on the bottom, or back, 13 in the front. Like I said, if this hadn't been apart before, consider WD-40 in those in order to get them apart easy. I'm going to start wearing gloves here real soon. Just swing this out of the way. This can just hang on the tie rod. I guess that's probably acceptable. But I'm going to go get some gloves and some other tools, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we've got this down to the boot itself, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these band clamps off here. But I do like to save those in case, because I'm terrible with the CV band clamp tool. So what we're going to do is I'll take a pair of pliers, and you'll squeeze it here and here, squeeze those together so that you can get it to disengage from right there. And it's the same on both of these clamps. You can see right there, it's is where you squeeze, and it'll disconnect from right there, if you can see that. But I'll try to get as good a picture I can, but this is a two-hand operation, so I won't be able to hold the camera while I do it. So maybe I'll get one of my kids. Okay, I got my boy to come out here and hold the camera for us, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is just take, and you need some fairly sizable pliers for this because these things are on there pretty darn good. So I'll try to get this off, and these bigger ones are tough. I don't know if I'll be able to do it or not, but we'll just squeeze this, and then we'll take a screwdriver, just pop that up there, and then that one is off. And then we can potentially reuse this clamp if I can't make the new one work, because it's just not one of my skills. So same deal up here. Squeeze this into here. And when we squeeze that, it'll allow us to get a screwdriver in there, and actually that one just popped up on its own. Release it, and then, like I said, if necessary, we can just reuse these. I'm not sure if that's authorized or approved or whatever, but it worked on the other one, so whatever. All right, so we're gonna get all the old grease out of here. Unfortunately, I noticed this pretty early, so the grease is all in really good shape still, and the back it up a little bit, Bub. There's no damage to the joint, so we should just be able to swap this boot out and put a new one on. So I'm gonna clean up this grease, and then after that I'll come back to you in just a second. Okay, so I figured out that we can't do this on the unit because of the way this hub is and how it doesn't come off. The other one did. I was able to take it apart and then just pull the boot over top of this bearing here. I don't think we're going to be able to do that in here, so they tell me that I can just knock this off with a hammer, and we'll give it a shot. So, Grant, come here. Like this. So we're going to remove this. We're going to remove this this axle, and it should just pull right out. Sometimes it takes a little effort, but it should just, if you just, there it goes. You just move it around, pull it out, and it's got, put it on the end. It's got this clip here that kind of holds it in, but you can just take it out. No oil or anything will leak out of the differential. And then we'll go put it in the vise and see if we can knock this end off down here. So, I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so we're here at the vise, I said we weren't going to have to take it off the truck or the car, but hey, that's the way it goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this thing in duct tape up here at the top, or I'm going to put it in the jaws. It still might mar it up, but I'm not really that concerned about an axle shaft, especially with the speeds that these things are going. Let's see here. Let's be the best way for you guys to see. So we'll put it in here. And this is where I got frustrated the last time and ended up just pulling the boot completely over the joint, but I just don't think that's going to be possible this time. All right, I'll be right back, and then we'll get to the to knocking the end of this thing off. Okay, like I've seen on some other videos, we're going to use a crescent wrench that's sized to the axle there, and then we're going to use the dead blow hammer to beat the thing off. So if you would put it at that, we'll see if this works. This didn't work last time I did something, but we'll see this time. Shine up here. As you can see, it came off. So next step, we'll be pulling off the boot itself. And as you can see down there, there's another one of those little clips like that goes in the differential that must hold that on there. So apparently that works on the outside CV, but the inside one, I beat on that thing for probably an hour before I just gave up on the inside one. So let's just go ahead and pull this boot off. And it's just as simple as pulling it off. We'll just pull this clamp off too, being careful not to get grease on it. This is trash, so we'll throw it in the garbage, and then I'll be right back. I'll be right back to put the new one on. Okay, so we're gonna clean up the axle shaft, clean out the bearing here, because you don't want to have all the sawdust and stuff that I have all over it in the bearing. I'm sorry, my kids are in the background going nuts. It's day like 2 or 3 of coronavirus at home school, and it's nice out for once, so they're going berserk. So you just have to bear with me. So we'll get this all cleaned up. You just want to get kind of all the old grease off, even if it looks like it's okay. There's still going to be contaminants in it from where it was, you know, where it was broken. And we'll try to get it cleaned up as best we can. Obviously, you're not going to get all the grease out of there. And fortunately, I noticed this one real early on, so I don't think too much stuff got in it. Get your mating surface there for your bearing all cleaned up. And we'll do that one more time before we get it on there. And again, and my table's all messed up with sawdust because I did think that we were going to be able to get this all done on the machine, but you know, that's how it goes. Okay, so we're going to put a new CV on, CV boot. This is, and we'll get a zoom in here, All Balls Racing 1950-21 right there. I don't know what else that works for, but this is again for a 2012 RZR 800 4-seater. So slide the new boot on. And again, let's get that one more time with the paper towel on the little indentate, the neck down there where it meets. And then we'll slide this on and into position there. All right, so I kind of lied to you guys about showing everything because I forgot to record this. But I took this boot back off, put the boot clamp on there, and then slid the boot back into place. And I'm using this boot clamp tool so that you can, and you have to have this. I've tried this with other things. If you want to use this boot clamp stuff, you have to have this tool to make it right. So just go get it if you don't have it. I got this on Amazon for a pretty reasonable amount of money. But you just torque this thing down until it feels tight enough. I don't know exactly what that is, but right now I can't move the boot, so I'm gonna call that tight enough. Then it says bend it over itself and use this lever here to cut the strap. Wrong one. So we've cut it, and now we'll put it down into in between these I don't know what you call these, retainers, I guess. Let me go grab a hammer. I tell you what, we'll be right back again. I'll get a hammer that doesn't have a waffle plate, and then we'll get that secured down. Okay, couldn't find my hammer, but I have a flat back axe thing. So just tap this down so it's secure like that. And then we'll take these little tabs on the side. Let me get a flathead screwdriver. We'll take and bend those over. Bend this over. Get those down like that. Okay, next we need to fill this thing up with new CV grease. So, I'm gonna turn it up vertical. Maybe, if my device allows. Vertical-ish. Okay, so we're gonna fill this thing up with CV grease. You can tell the CV grease because it's CV grease. And you wanna try to get as much of this in here as you can. Just try to fill this dude up. It's gonna be thick and nasty. But we're gonna try to get as much in here as we can. We'll just probably hard to see on camera because my camera guy is 10 and not all that tall yet.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of show you, and I don't want to try to get any grease on the mating surface of where that's going to go. But we do want to get a lot of it in there. All right, have a good one. Let's see, probably a little bit more. Go. And as you can see, we got that pretty well filled up with grease, and we tried to keep everything off of the mating surface of that of the axle end. Okay, gonna put the hub in back on it, and after we get it pounded on, we'll wipe this off one more time, and I'll show you the how to put the bearing back on, or the seal back on. So we've got it lined up. Make sure you get it engages a little bit before it gets to that pin. Just take your dead blow hammer. Again, this is a soft face dead blow hammer, and just, there you go. Get pounds right back on there. So we will take and just wipe off this surface. Push this up to where it needs to be. Again, try to keep all that grease from getting in there. And then I'll show you guys how to use this CV boot tool. It's kind of, like I said, this is the first time I've ever used it, and to use this kind of clamp, you absolutely have to have this tool. It just won't work without it. So we'll expand this out to where we need it to be. Try to keep it in frame so the camera guy can get it. You wrap it around there, and you just get it kind of snug. And then now we have some left over from the last one. We'll pull out all the leftover. There's a lot of sound in this video that I did not intend for there to be. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. Dang it.
And then you drop it in.
Feed. As you can see through here, there's a little opening at the end, and you feed that through the cutter, so your cutter has to be at the right angle for it to go through, and then up into the slot of this thing here. Just like this, up into this slot. It's kind of hard to get aligned when you're trying to hold everything in place. Alrighty. Just push that in. And once it's in there, you don't have to have this terribly tight yet on the boot. You can start turning it, and that will start tightening up this boot clamp. This would have probably been a lot easier if I'd have done this horizontally, but we're already into it. So make sure that you have it in the right spot, that the boot's in the right spot, and that the boot clamp is centered, and then just tighten it. I'd love to tell you a torque spec or something, but enough is kind of where I go with it, where you're not going to cut the boot, and it's enough to hold it. That's feeling pretty good. And you just bend it over. That should hold that tension. And then you take your cutting device here and cut the strap. We'll do the same thing for it as we did on the other side. We'll just tap it down. And then take my screwdriver wherever it went, right here. Take these little tabs, push them down. And then we'll tap those little tabs into place. And so now we have a real nice seal. It's not going anywhere. Our joint moves freely, and we're ready to put it back on the RZR. So I'll see you back on the passenger front side of the RZR. We'll reassemble it. I'll try to give you all the torque values for all the bolts, and that'll be a wrap. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to reassemble the axle into the differential, and I always like to put just a little bit of grease on these splines here. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of this leftover CV grease. We'll just put it on there, not terribly much, just something to assemble it with, and just kind of keep it from getting nasty over the course. You know, I'm hoping to not have this thing out for a while again, but we'll see. And then all you do is just take this, try to get shut up in there if you can. Align it with the hole, and then you may have to mess with it a little bit to get the splines to line up, but they should, once they slide in there, that's lined up. Now we just need to just push it in, and that's all you got to do. There's no fancy ring or whatever. The force of it just being in the RZR keeps it solid. So I don't know the torque specs for everything off the top of my head, so I'm gonna go look them up, write them down, and then so I'll be able to give them to you guys on the fly as we do this. So I'll be right back. Okay, now that we've got the axle back in the differential, and we're pretty confident that we have everything finished up with the boot itself, we can start reassembling. And to do that, we'll just slide our axle shaft inside the hub. and start connecting the ball joints back into the hub assembly. Once you get these dudes in there, you'll have to wiggle them around until you get them to where the bolt can go through, and I would just put that through just like that, and then get the other one in. Same deal with this one. This bolt has to go through this little notch here, if you can see that, and so it just takes them a little bit to get lined up. So put those through. Start the nut on the back side there, and these are nylon nuts, so you gotta thread them on. So I'm gonna just go ahead and power thread them on. And once I get my airline, and we'll power thread them on, and then I'll get them snug, and we'll torque them with the torque wrench. Now granted, they are, this is suspension parts, so it probably doesn't necessarily need to be torqued, but we'll do it and just do it right. That's pretty close. That's actually probably too much. It's all right. Turn this on. Okay, so the torque wrench I use is actually an electronic one from Craftsman, and it just gives me a digital readout. It's calibrating right now. And so the torque for these ball joint pinch bolts is 17 feet-pounds. And again, it probably, if you didn't get this exactly 17 feet-pounds, if you just make it tight, that is probably sufficient for suspension. I call it drivetrain torque value. There we go, 17.4, where it's usually just a lot. Typically does the trick, but they say 17, and we have the tools to do it. So there we have it. Okay, next up, we'll slide our rotor assembly. Make sure there's no dirt or nastiness in it. And that will go here, and I'll try to get a shot of it, even though this is really onto my generator handle. That's my tripod. So you want to fit this, let's see if I get that to focus, get some light. In between the, it's pretty self-explanatory, between the bearing and the spline shaft there, and just wiggle it into place. Let's get this straightened up. Let me re-put this on here. Make sure we're looking at the right thing. Yeah. So we'll get this straightened up, because then it'll be on. It'll be a little bit easier to get it seated. You can hold that in there in the back side. Okay, we're gonna try to get this thing in there again. There we go. That went in nice and easy that time. I'm not sure what happened the first time. So we'll take and put our castle nut back on. Remember the two washers, put those in concave side in, and we'll spin this on. And I am going to just snug it up with the impact wrench as soon as I find the socket that I used, this 27 millimeter. Again, just going to snug it. We'll get back to that in just a second because we need to put our brake caliper and pad assembly back on. These can kind of be tricky, so you just spread the pads out a little bit on one side and then you just kind of work it on. Thread these guys back in there. See if I can see this so you guys can see it. And I was unable to find a torque spec for these. Now again, these just hold this in place, so it's probably not crazy important that they have exactly the right torque. And also, before you put these in, make sure that everything moves freely, and if it doesn't, lube it up. So for these, I'm just going to put, again, a drivetrain amount of torque on them, which is a bunch. I'm sure that's enough. I'm sure that's enough. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do next, we're going to get this needs to be torqued, the axle nut needs to be torqued to 80 foot-pounds, and that is one that I kind of have a bugaboo about to get done correctly because that holds everything together. So I'll get that into our torque wrench, and I'm going to get a pry bar. You can just shove a pry bar into the hub assembly to hold it. And I'm looking at my torque spec on the ground there, but we're going to be looking for 80 feet-pounds, and there it is. And then you need to line the castle nut up with the hole in the end of the axle, and we're just slightly off. So I always like to go more versus less. That should do it right there. Let me go grab a new cotter pin, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm putting a new cotter pin in. I compared this to the original. The original looks to be about 1/8 by 1.5, and I have 1/8 by 1.25 and 1/8 by 2 inches. So I'm using the 1/8 by 1.25. Just slide that dude down in there till it seats, and then just take your two tails here and bend them over. So make sure that it holds that castle nut from moving. All right, so we didn't mess with our tie rods. We got the ball joints snug down to 17 feet-pounds each. We got both of our caliper nuts snug down to enough, and then we have this tightened down to 80 foot-pounds. Really, the only thing left to do is get our tire back on. So I'll clear all my tools out from underneath here because like most people probably have a whole bucket of tools, and then I'll be right back. All right, we're gonna put our tire back on. I know this is probably pretty easy for everyone, but I said that I would show you the repair start to finish. So let me move my generator tripod back to somewhere where you guys can see. That's pretty good. And always make sure that you put a couple threads on here before you start tightening these things down with an air wrench, if that's what you do. Because nothing's more inconvenient than cross-threading your wheel studs. All right, and these were the 17mm. obviously always do when you get to torquing these things down, do a star pattern or across the lug pattern so that you evenly distribute the torque. Also, when we had the wheel off, that would have been a real good time to grease your wheel bearings too. I've just recently done these and they still had a ton of grease on them, so I didn't see any reason to do that again. Just greasing your bearings every once in a while with one of those bearing greasers on eBay. That's where I got mine for extremely low price. It's going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of maintenance costs putting new bearings in. So I'm going to tighten these to 60 feet-pounds. They said on the internet that in the service manual you should do 30 feet-pounds plus 90 degrees, and then some people said 90 feet-pounds. But pretty much the internet consensus, and that's good enough for me, is 60 feet-pounds. So we'll tighten these dudes to 60 feet-pounds, and that should take care of it. And there we, well, let me make sure. Yep, 60 feet-pounds. All right. So there you have it. That's replacing the outer CV boot on the front passenger side of a 2012 RZR 800 4-seater. If you like this video, like and subscribe to my channel. We're gonna have a couple other repair videos. I kind of broke the bottom out of here. I understand that's a pretty common thing, so we're going to try to do some plastic welding. Like I said, like and subscribe to my channel, and that way we can you won't miss out on that repair video. And you guys get outside and do something fun today, or get outside and repair something that you already had fun with and broke. I'll see you next time. I gotta give a shout out to my cameraman, Grant. He helped out quite a bit. That's Luke and Emma that you heard in the back of in the background.
Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out any of the other videos. Have a great day. Peace out.